See you, so I need a moment to imagine you. I feel like you're there. I feel like you're all there. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Idris Goodwin. He, him, his. I'm the executive director of the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. And right now I am in the virtual space, reaching you from throughout the railways and trailways of the world wide web. As some of you know, and some of you may not know, the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College is located in the homeland and unceded historic territory of many Native American nations, including the Nuchu, also known as the Utes, who have been the longest continuous indigenous inhabitants of what is now known as Colorado. Also the Kiowa, the Jicarilla, Apache, Comanche, Cheyenne, and Arapaho all hold historic ties to this place and continue to foster their relationship with this land. So we acknowledge, give shout out and salute to all the indigenous peoples who continue to contribute to the existing culture of the Pikes Peak region. Hello, welcome. We're moving ahead into the future, past and present connected. Tonight is called Action Words. It is the first in a series. It was apt to start this today, during the week, during the time that we reflect on the legacy, the work, and the road ahead set forth by Martin Luther King Jr., the good Reverend Doctor, at Colorado College. We were part of a regional celebration with the theme, It Starts With Me. It starts with me, referring to the change. It starts with me. And so in thinking about tonight, we all know that King was a thinker. He was a pastor. He was a great orator. But what you may or may not think about or think of him as is a poet. Yes, he had brilliant ideas. Yes, he was anointed. Yes, he was a radical change agent. Yes, he was an activist. But he also was nice with the wordplay. You know what I mean? He put them together smooth. He was the master of the technique known as anaphora. If anybody wants to throw in the chat what anaphora is, I won't spoil it for you. I'll let you discover it. But King would often use techniques like anaphora or epistrophe, which is the opposite of anaphora, or as some may call it, anaphorna. Tonight is very special. We have three handpicked, and by handpicked, I mean I shot them emails and text messages because we're all distancing. Poets, people I'm a fan of, people with ties to Colorado Springs, but in different ways. You see what I'm saying? Celebrate that diversity, different connections. One of them was recently named the Poet Laureate of the region, the whole Pikes Peak region, meaning if you got any issue, any problem, any celebration, and you're like, yo, who is going to christen this with a poem? This poet will swoop in, land, dust, rock the mic, make your heart melt, make your face melt, fly off to her next episode. Another poet from the great state of New Mexico, our neighbor to the south, has been here and rocked stages in Colorado Springs before, has contributed to our region, and is doing great work in New Mexico. And our first poet, who I'm going to bring out in just a moment, is beaming in from the future, y'all, from the future. She is beaming in from Shanghai, okay? It's Wednesday over there. It ain't even Tuesday no more. It's hump day over there. And she is taking a moment because she is in the spirit of Sankofa, okay? Put that in the chat after you find out what anaphora is, to come back and talk to us in the past and educate us here in the past. I'm just your host. I'm just your lowly host. I'm goofing around. I'm loosening up. I'm letting people beam in. I'm letting people figure out their technology. As we do this, I want you to listen. I want you to enjoy. I want you to crank it to 10. Feel free. We're not together, but, if you've ever been to a poetry event, a slam or reading, whatever, this is something else we shared in the tradition of King with, is that, you want the spirit, you want to raise the spirits. You want folk in the congregation to let you know you're doing all right, to say amen. So if you're feeling something, click it in the chat. But also towards the end, we might, depending on how we do, depending how long I drag this intro out, we could get into some conversation, you know, with our writers, with our scribes about what does it mean to be a writer of the living word, a poet of the living word in a time of social distancing. Um, it's not about me right now. My whole book tour was canceled because of COVID. But it's not about me right now. Right now, it's about reflection, self-reflection, because it starts with me. And so if you are ready, take a deep breath. Let's do it together. I can't see you, but I can feel you when I close my eyes. Okay, here we go. We're going to take a deep breath together, y'all. All right. Quick disclaimer before I introduce our first poet. This ain't no antiquated antique shop, history museum poetry, okay? This is the living word. This is the word on the street. This is the word of the day. Might get hot, might get a little spicy, might get a little prickly. You might hear some 4-letter words. So I don't know if y'all speak French, but we're not going to pardon our French. So that's the little disclaimer. If you got like little sensitive ears, I'm just telling you now, I'm warning you now, but not gratuitous, all in the interests of ill conversation and dope wordplay. All right, enough dilly-dally. That's not what you came here for. You did not come for dilly-dally. You came to have your face melted. So let's get on with the face melting. First poet is a photographer and an artist and writer based in Shanghai, China, originally from San Francisco, a former Colorado College student. Go Tigers. Former student of mine, Idris Goodwin, as well as many others. Someone who came to mind immediately when I wanted to put together this night. A young mind of great promise and great power is going to kick it off for us. I cede the microphone to Angela Kong.
Thanks, Idris, for that introduction. So I'll first start off the night with a poem titled To the Ones Who Are Killing Our Elders. To the ones who are killing our elders, murdering innocent in broad daylight, unearthing tragedies with every senseless death, let it be known that we will still find ways to survive. You will haunt every news station, every sensational headline, every unjust issue happening in the US. But I will look to history, remind myself of my birthright. We are here because they were strong. We are here because we are strong. We are more than just a sentence, a page, or a measly paragraph in your textbooks. Don't you know who my people are? What we have fought through to get here? Wars, government upheaval, political turmoil. We move oceans. Generations upon generations, we will bring forth our legacies, create our own gold mountains, and shine under a new light. You'll carry your pitchforks, we'll emerge from the fire. You'll shout your chinks and kung flus, we'll claim our birthrights. You'll wield your torches, we'll take your weapons and turn flame into fuel for our renewed futures. For every sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic comment, we will hold our heads high, thank those who came before us. Wong Kim Ark fought for our birthright. Martin Luther King Jr. marched for our civil rights. Bell Hooks taught us how to love. And through each headline, we will remember our purpose. You challenge us to be politically engaged. Your kung flu comments ricocheting into my foray of learning about the history of how my people arrived on stolen land, and somehow, despite their communities being burned down by angry white mobs, they still found ways to bloom. On this meandering path to find peace in our identities, I'm learning to forge hope. To be a person of color in this world is what others will see as a death sentence. but is what I am learning to believe as a creation of resistance. You are the reason we write, to empower others to love themselves when the world does not make space for them. You are the reason we fight. My punches in Muay Thai are fueled by a desire for the world to change, with liberation written across my gloves. And to the ones who are killing our elders, you are the reason why I, alongside other activists, will continue to survive. You can't burn us all when we are the ones breathing fire under our tongues. All right, so the second poem is called Mei Yi, which is my Chinese name. My Chinese name is Jiang Mei Yi, 长江的江，美国的美，威仪的仪. If you put my Chinese name into Google Translate, it translates to US instrument, but really it means beautiful and graceful. The word for America in Chinese means beautiful country in English, 美国的美, 美国的美, the beauty of America or America the beautiful. I went to the motherland to study Chinese. They asked me, 你是哪国人? What's your nationality? 美国人. I'm American. 美国人长得不像 American. You don't look like it. And they didn't believe me because when people think of American, they don't think of me. When people see people like me, I will always be seen as the foreigner. In China, I am American. In America, I am Chinese. Leanne Schreiber. It takes one generation to lose China. How many does it take to gain America? And there is no place I can be without this middle identity. Middle, hyphenated, in between, middle, in the middle, stuck between two countries, two worlds, two words, stuck in the hyphen. When people of color pursue the American dream, it will never be without immigration, segregation, discrimination, misrepresentation, incarceration. But that does not mean we have to sacrifice ourselves to let that pursuit include assimilation. Instead, we will make ourselves known for our aspirations and demonstrations, and where we will get the validation and reparations that we deserve. To be a person of color in America means to support each other in our struggles, in our successes, in all of our American dreams. America the beautiful starts right here. Over these mountains of Colorado, it starts with us. I will never bleach this skin of mine for you. This golden skin of mine is beautiful because it is strength, not only of 5,000 years of Chinese history and survival and rich culture, but also of my own willpower and love towards myself, of fighting, believing, of accepting. And today, you don't get to define me. I am Angela Kong. 我叫江美仪, Chinese, American, and Asian American feminist, hyphenated, not one without the other, not whole or half, but both and multifaceted, yet simply real. Human, and I exist, so don't you dare forget that. And with beauty and grace, I will change the world with my name. Thank you.
Yeah, y'all, send out the vibrations out of your hands into your computer screen through the tributaries and roads of the information superhighway all the way over to Shanghai for Angela Kong. Those are bars. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we might bring you back at the end for the conversation. Thank you, Angela. All right, y'all. It's a beautiful thing. Angela her poems made me think of, another one of King's wonderful ideas, themes, refrains is the beloved community, right? And that was definitely one of the spirit, something I was thinking about putting this night together, as Pastor Butler used to say back in Detroit, we got to get up in each other's business. All right. I'm very excited to introduce this next poet. Someone whose work I've followed for years, someone who is doing great things. I'm going to read her impressive bio real quick and then see the virtual microphone. I know you got it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's your bio, fam. Like you gave it to me. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Mercedez Houltree is a poet, writer, mentor, and Chicana feminist who focuses on bringing out her roots, experiences, and lessons learned through her poetry in hopes that they embrace her people and other artists around her. She has represented Albuquerque on multiple final and semifinal stages in national poetry events. It's a litany of the words that matter. The girl crushes. Okay, let's just leave it at that. She has worked with youth in poetry workshops in multiple cities and countries around the country, including our very own Aspen Words Poetry in the Schools project since 2015. I forgot about that other connection. Aspen super loves Mercedez Houltree. Shout out Aspen for having good taste. Mercedez is not only a poet, but an outreach coordinator for Warehouse 508, Albuquerque's Arts and Entertainment Center, in which she organizes workshops and poetry events for the youth to participate in. Since graduating from the University of New Mexico, go Lobos, with her degrees in Chicano studies. I believe one of the only schools that offers a Chicano studies major. Is that correct? One of the few.
Yeah.
One of the few. Again, go Lobos. Journalism and communications continues to cultivate the poetry slam community in Albuquerque, also known as Burque, if you're in the know, co-founded and spearheaded Burque Revolt, a intergenerational poetry slam organization that creates safe spaces for all ages to enjoy. She is passionate about spoken word and aspires to continually learn all she can about her art through working, slamming, and organizing for her community. People of the interwebs, nice and loud, send the vibrations along the information superhighway to our very own Mercedez Houltree.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Idris, for reading that long-ass bio. Me llamo Mercedes. I'm a Chicano from Albuquerque, and I'm just going to get into the poem. I wrote this when I was very angry. So, yeah, I think we'll just go with that, and we'll get into it. This is called America is a Dream. They say America is a dream for some and a nightmare for others, and some think, could that really be true? They say the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that star-spangled flag waves red, white, and blue. It waves freedom, ironically, in the places where people ain't free, like the cages at the borders and the private prisons and the public school systems, where only a small percentage of us go on to get that college degree. Because that's the ticket, they say, to a life with a white picket fence and a home that feels real. So we spend thousands in debt for a piece of paper that says we beat the system that was built for us to fail. I think about those student loans often, like one day I'll get the dream job that pays those off, and then I'll finally be free. Free to live a life my ancestors only dreamed of, a life they never got to see. America the free. And it makes me think education is a dream for others and a rite of passage for the upper class. Why you think politicians prey on the poor, like, look at the life you could have. Meanwhile, they defund our schools and give policemen all the city and state funds, and all the while we stay seeing Black and brown folks die from the barrel of a cop's gun. So we yell in the streets because the First Amendment says it's our right to speak what we believe, to keep fighting this American fight. But if it's our American right, why do they send cops in full riot gear to tear gas us and blast us through the night? Then the media says, look at all these poor people destroying our cities. Look at them set buildings on fire. Look at them pillage. Like we ain't a nation built on violence, like white people didn't come here and destroy entire villages. And when they say, why don't you just go back to where you came from? I get so gassed up. My ancestors have been here many moons, generations of working until the sun comes up. I don't know how many times I have to tell y'all motherfuckers we didn't cross the border crossed us. The real alien is the conquistador with his horses and his guns and his dreams of new nations, killed off full nations of Native Americans with smallpox blankets, stepped foot on this land and caused nothing but havoc, put them in boarding schools to wash out the savage, gave them reservations with no resources to survive, and still taking advantage of the land by building destructive pipelines, poisoning the water that then makes the people sick, and then charging up the ass to be seen by a doctor to get your body fixed. No health insurance means shorter lives to live. So I get Medicaid and suddenly I'm the welfare queen eating up all your hard-earned tax. White people love pointing fingers like they ain't the ones collecting the most checks. Check the facts. But it's immigrants destroying this country. No, it's those Muslim terrorists. No, it's blacks. Blaming everybody as if your ancestors built this country off their backs when they actually sat around barking orders with their whips and their chains saying, we escaped the Queen of England, now it's our turn to cause pain. And they wonder why I don't celebrate 4th of July because I'm tired of this fake-ass patriotism being blown up in the sky. We ain't really free unless we're a white man, because that's who the Constitution protects, our founding fathers own slaves, and somehow our history books forget. So our kids glorify this narrative like we're the greatest country alive because we can carry guns and order Big Macs and fries. In America, we supersize, we televise, we tell all the lies. I'm sick of wanting to love my country when all it does is reject the people I love, puts us against each other using politics and such. I could give a fuck about being blue or red, right or left, Republican or Dem. They both profit when our votes are in their pockets and our livelihoods in their hands. They pay off the pastor and get you voting in the steeple. It's no wonder Christians and Republicans happen to be the same people, saying godliness is next to conservatism, and those who disagree, Jesus will never accept you. And Jesus was a brown man who said, I will never neglect you. I will always respect you, even when you don't look like me, because God said, love thy neighbor and the truth will set you free. And Democrats are no better with their two-faced agendas and their progressive slogans and sayings coming into our neighborhood like they ain't playing no games, lying to our face, promising change and then selling us out and causing us pain, gentrifying our neighborhoods and using our colorful votes to win their campaigns. I worry for our children because no one's really paving a way. We live in a system where you either survive or succeed based off the color of your skin, where you live, and your last name. Ain't it a shame? America the free. When will we let freedom ring? We're always conveniently quoting Dr. King, but never really knowing Dr. King and the message that he stood for, not just the speech, I have a dream. Always fought chaos with peace and still got gunned down by a white man in Memphis, Tennessee, and y'all have the nerve to tell me America's come a long way. I say there's a lot of fighting left to do. You're either coming or you stay. That make America great again bullshit is for the birds. The American past is full of pain. Live in this present moment and look what's happening today. Corporate greed got us risking our lives during a virus that's killing millions. And while the front line works for dimes, corporate bailouts are getting billions, and small businesses don't get shit when they should be getting something. Meanwhile, y'all stay happy over a measly $1,200. And when they ask me, what's your problem with white people and what's your problem with this presidency? My problem is that your president is using American values to disguise white supremacy. And to be clear, I love all people from the darkest to the lightest. My problem is white supremacy owns the table that runs the nation, and we ain't all invited. Y'all may not own slaves today, but you still incite these race riots. You sit at the top just like your ancestors intended, complicit in a system that benefits you as long as it's divided. When I say you got privilege, I'm not saying you didn't have it hard growing up. I'm saying the color of your skin wasn't the reason you got locked up. When I say I don't celebrate this country, I'm not saying I'm anti-America. I'm saying I refuse to be blind to injustice, to give into this colorblind hysteria. When I say I support Kaepernick and his peaceful protest to nil, I'm not saying I don't respect veterans or the troops or how they feel. I'm saying there's a war against Black people in their own homeland, and it's real. And don't pretend like veterans are your main concern and priority. We ignore them when they're homeless and begging like we have so much superiority. We don't actually care about the men and women who fought overseas. I highly doubt it, because if we did, they wouldn't come home only to fight PTSD and the VAs that are overcrowded. America the free, so imprisoned and upheld by the doctrines in 1787 that our white forefathers wrote, but quick to say, while slavery in 1808 was such a long time ago. America the forgetful, America the regretful, America home of the brave. Yes, we are brave because even when America doesn't claim us, we stay and we rage and we fight and we pray for a nation that's supposedly under God for change, but God only helps those who help themselves. And right now we have so much to figure out. Cycles to keep the rich rich and the poor poor need to break. Our planet is at stake. Our education is fake. Racism is still causing funerals and wakes. Man, I think most of us just want to make it through the day. America, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? I wish you were built for everyone. Maybe then we could call ourselves a country that's free. Yeah, imagine that. A flag that all people, all races, all creeds can feel flowing in the breeze. Maybe that's why they call you a dream. America the free. Cool, thank you. That was a mouthful and a very long poem. So I might just do a shorter poem, but I don't know, because I write really long poems. All right, this one is called Replacement. Cool. Replace the wedding rings with rosaries, the border of Germany with the frontera of Texas. Replace Jews, the Polish, and the Romani with Mexicanos, Guatemaltecos, and Salvadoreños. Replace the transit camps with the shelters. Hold everyone hostage, especially the children, the most vulnerable. An easy tactic for negotiating. Keep the children crying. Record the sounds. Watch as America listens with remorse but does nothing. Replace Nazi men with Minutemen. A swastika for the United States emblem sewed onto a green suit. The assignment tattoos speak volumes on alien skin. It is easier to dehumanize a child when you look at them like they're just a number. Replace Aryan German families with white American Christians. Watch as they use the Bible to justify the law. Watch as they praise Jesus in their churches and crucify Jesus in the middle of a scorching desert. Leave his body to wither in the sun. The Son of God was a man with brown skin who told us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, and here we stand, building a wall of barbed wire like the crown of Christ, raising our flag before we raise our humanity, calling ourselves good Americans while simultaneously repeating our mistakes. Refer to the Japanese internment camps, refer to the auctioning of slaves in the South, refer to the genocide of Native Americans, disguise a dictator and call him president. Watch as Trump looks in the mirror and sees Hitler staring back at him. Watch as the number of children captured at the border rise like the number of Jews kept in Auschwitz until the counting becomes unbearable. And then ask yourself, why is it that we only see the severity of genocide when we compare it to the Holocaust, as if indigenous and Black bodies don't make up the majority of unidentified grave sites on American soil? Is it then that we take off the blindfolds? We're so past racism in America and yet always running away from the American past. Genocide. A deliberate decision by a particular ethnic or religious group, leader, or government to exterminate a specific group of people for religious, cultural, racial, or political reasons. A white man once called me a roach because I'm Mexican, said my people would be exterminated one day. I can feel his hatred travel through the white noise of my television set. I watch and listen as the children cry themselves to sleep. So I gripped my rosary a little tighter and I pray in Spanish. Diosito mío, Jesucristo, cuide y protege a los niños perdidos en la frontera. Reunite them with their families. Help them make it out alive. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Mercedes. Woo! Oh, now we reading some poems. Yeah, let's all just take a collective breath and ruminate on what we all just experienced together. Thank you again for going there. I will tell you, as a writer myself, you know, there is often a choice that one makes when you are reflecting back on what you see, right? That is the job of the writer, to tell the story in front of their nose, and you can't unsee what you've seen. And sometimes when it is hard to hear, it is even harder to write and even harder to say in your own voice. And certainly something that King knew as well about those inconvenient truths. So thank you, Mercedes and Angela, for sharing these pieces of yourself, these pieces of your day-to-day, what you see and experience. You are not alone in what you've seen and experienced. All right, y'all. I told you, we're not here for the play, okay? We're not here for the play. It's a new year, 2022. We have another poet fitting to come to the stage. I'm going to dig up her biography, but I'm sure many of you are very familiar with this wonderful writer who was just named the Pikes Peak Region Poet Laureate. Ashley Cornelius is a nationally recognized poet. That means where her poetry reflects her intersectionality as a Black woman and works towards art equity. Ashley Cornelius is a licensed professional counselor candidate, LPCC, and is the manager of RISE program at Denver Health, providing confidential peer support to Denver Health personnel. She is a 2021 Colorado Springs Business Journal Rising Star. She is 2019 Gold winner of the Colorado Springs Independent Best Artist category. Competed in the Women of the World Poetry Slam in 2018. Featured in look out in these streets, okay, running out of shelf space, okay. If you get my drift, Also is the co-director of Poetry 719, a poetry group lifting voices of marginalized communities and BIPOC folks through poetry. Ashley is a therapist and believes poetry is a powerful modality for healing. Couldn't agree more. Ashley has a background in poetry education and was the program director of an art nonprofit in Denver focused on poetry workshops and curriculum. She is committed to using poetry as a platform to speak up and out for marginalized groups and be a voice for those who have been silenced. But right now, we are going to get the opposite of silence. Crank it up to 20. Ashley Cornelius, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, and so happy to be here with you all today. And just the synchronicity of all of the poets, it's just been beautiful. So this first piece I wrote after the Atlanta spa shootings and the complete lack of focus on misogyny within this, as well as the target towards Asian American women. And so really taking a deep dive into what America is. So this is called America. He had a bad day, they said. It's not his fault, they said. Violent video games are to blame, they said. He was bullied, they said. A woman turned down his advances, they said. He's a patriot, they said. He has a gun license, they said. He's the victim of the system, they said. He deserves to live, they said. He needs help, they said. He isn't a threat, they said. He's hungry, they said. He needs a bulletproof vest, they said. We have to protect him, they said. It's okay, they said. He didn't mean it, they said. It's okay, he killed them, they said. She was a threat in her sleep, they said. She killed herself in her cell, they said. He's a kid, they said. He's an adult, they said. He was resisting arrest, they said. She was protesting her rights, they said. It looked like a gun, they said. He was a criminal, they said. He was suspicious, they said. She was running, they said. He was walking, they said. They were driving, they said. They got what they deserved, they said. They were a threat, they said. They don't need help, they said. It's okay, we killed them, they said. Whew. So we're gonna move on and just keep it spicy to this next piece that was born out of like 2020, when we saw like increases of social unrest and kind of the recognition of things that have been going on forever. And I'm pretty sure I realized that I was most people's only Black friend, because I was getting text messages and phone calls and emails from people I've never talked to before. And in that moment, I realized I'm it. And the way it feels when you are going through pain for your community, for people to try to absolve their guilt from you. And we do this a lot with the term of an ally. And I don't like that word. I like accomplice, right? If I rob a bank and you got the getaway car, we're both going to go down for something, right? We're both going to be in interrogation rooms. That's an accomplice. And that's what we need to see when we're looking for advocacy and support, people who are in it just as much as the folks who are being oppressed by these systems. So this next piece is called Ally. You find me laying on the ground, gunshot smoke rising from my body, sirens fleeing from the scene of their own crime. Bleeding out, barely breathing, I reach to you for help. You take a video, ask me what happened, ask me what you can do to be an ally in this moment, ask me what I did to get shot. Say I was asking for it. Must have been breaking the law. Ask if it was Black on Black crime. Demand I educate you on police brutality. Instruct me to just pull myself up by my bootstraps, disregarding they stripped me naked before they shot me. You show me pictures of Beyonce. Say, why can't I be like that Black woman? Not every Black person is oppressed. In fact, some are even more privileged than you. Ask how you're supposed to explain this to your kids. Ask me to use my last breath to tell you it's okay. You want me to stop applying pressure to my bullet wounds so I can hold you with my bloody hands, so I can stroke your hair, make you feel seen. Because how else will you learn if not from me, if not from the oppressed? Because your liberal arts college taught you that experiential learning is essential. So you start to feel better. You leave me to die in the street. You find the nearest crowd, start to cry, pass my bloodstains off as your own, say how sad you feel for the injustices of Black people. Never tell anyone where you left my body. You swallow my name. You hashtag my death. You feel empowered. You feel like an ally. You call yourself an activist. Thank you. All right. I have one more spicy piece and then we'll go into the joy, because what I always like to share when I do features is people can kind of put us in these boxes of like, oh, I want you to be a joyful poet. I want you to read happy poems. But when we speak our truth, when we talk about what America looks like, when we address systemic oppression, that is a beautiful form of joy, right? These poems are joyful because I get to name what's happening to us. And so always love to frame that as we get into these poems that have meaning and represent the things that we're going through. So this is one of my favorite pieces, and we already sort of talked about it already, that the system isn't broken. Like, nothing's wrong. This is exactly what people wanted to happen. And so coming to the realization of what that looks like for me in this body, I wrote this piece called "The System Isn't Broken." I am told the system is broken. The corruption of the system is deep and historical, and it is our job as activists, revolutionaries, the woke, to fix, repair, to realign the system. Be it the justice system, school, prison, healthcare, economic system. I say false. The system is not broken. There are no cracks allowing the innocent to fall in and be condemned to darkness. No erosion of justice and equality. The system is working perfectly. It is protecting and serving the great-great-great-grandchildren of founding fathers. It is oppressing and suppressing the voices that were written in as inferior to our Constitution. In fact, by the time I finish this poem, a rapist has picked up 20 pieces of trash as their punishment. By the end of the sentence, the ink will have dried on the wrongful conviction of a Black man. See, the system never really liked Black people. Couldn't find ways to openly hunt us, so they wove it into the fabric of our systems. Made it legal to gun down innocent Black men, created laws to protect the killers, gave killers badges to protect the law. It was designed so that Cynthia Brown was sentenced and served 15 years for killing a grown man who hired a young child for sex. Our system knows that men whose name don't get to be a part of this poem can assault a woman unconscious behind a dumpster and get off. The system was constructed so Black and brown bodies selling marijuana are in prison for most of their life, while white bud tenders and dispensary owners gentrify and profit in their absence. The system created the panic defense, making a case in court that a person's sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression grants permission and is warranted for someone to beat, torture, and kill with cause. See, our system is a well-oiled machine when there are more prison cells than schools. When neighborhoods for Black and brown folks are designed to block resources. The fact that there is a 16-year life expectancy gap between the southeast of Colorado Springs and the rest of the city means the system is working. If you are shocked by these atrocities, if these moments make you say, I can't believe that would happen, how could someone get away with this? You are forgetting the definition. A system is a set of things working together as a part of a mechanism or interconnected network, an organized scheme or method to support a driving force. We were never supposed to learn how to drive. See, the system couldn't fathom that Black people would be in political power. Never anticipated there'd be trans CEOs, didn't plan for women to become doctors and surgeons. We are their worst nightmares. We are the children of the brujas, of the enslaved, of the immigrants, of the untouchables that they couldn't kill. We are surpassing and fucking up their expectations of perceived limits. Our job is to break the system, to deconstruct the foundations of oppressive cogs and wheels designed to harm us. This poem is a sledgehammer. Your engagement is a wrecking ball. Our presence is a demolition of this system. Thank you so much. And I'm going to do, I think, this last piece This is a piece that I wrote for MLK Day yesterday and performed it through the All People's Breakfast at CC with the theme of It Starts With Me and shifting that to It Starts With Us. When you are the first, you become an ancestor in your own right. You become history. And in doing so, disrupt the historical standards and representation of excellence. When you are the first, you are cashing in on decades of hard work, advocacy, love, and joy from elders and community members before you. When you are the first and represent marginalized identities, you are setting fire to a system that is working tirelessly to oppress you. You are redefining the way generations will look at what you've done. We are models of possibility. Our existence is an affirmation to those who thought it was impossible to be the first to go to college, the first to own a home, the first in their field, the first to represent their communities. Being first is not only an inspiration, but a placeholder for those who come next. Your work will turn into a legacy. So many of us are the direct result of the work and life of Dr. King, of his unrelenting passion and drive for equity, justice, and peace. And for some of us, he was the first Black leader that taught us that we have a place in this work. I am the first Black poet laureate of the Pikes Peak region, and I can't wait to meet the 20th. I can't wait to read about the stories of the first and the 50th Black, Brown, Indigenous person of color and all of their accomplishments. I can't wait to learn what you do. But in order for this to happen, it starts with us. It starts with our innovation and passion to step into these roles. You may be the first person in your family to stand up for what you believe in. You may be the first person in your job to advocate for change. You may be the first person to accomplish something that has never been done. Your bravery and courage to start something new will lay down roots of trees that will continue to grow long after you're gone. All it takes is you believing that your actions are powerful enough to birth a forest of possibilities. All it takes is the faith that your voice is nourishment for a bountiful harvest. All it takes is you planting the seed, knowing when you bloom, there will be a vibrant garden behind you. Be the first, become ancestor, become history, and inspire the next person to accomplish something great. Thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure to read with you.
Yes, yes, y'all. Yes, yes, y'all. Our very own Pikes Peak Poet Laureates and all sorts of digital love and appreciation through the screen, along the back roads and one-way streets of the information superhighway. Send them to Ashley Cornelius and really expand them out. Let's open it up and give love to all three of our wonderful readers tonight. Angela, Ashley, and Mercedes. Please join me here. We've got some time. So, I want to encourage those who might be viewing wherever you may be. If you want to just give love, or if you have a question, feel free to throw it in there. But just to get us going, I have a couple questions I wanted to just throw at y'all right quick. The thing that, and I'm sort of asking this question in two ways, but before I do this, all right, just don't let me forget, y'all. I got to talk about the congressional thing happening tomorrow. But real quick, I want to ask you this question as citizens, right, as Americans, but also as poets. So it's a two-part question. So I'll just ask the first part, which is, in each of your work, there was you all sort of read these critiques in a way, right, calling out America's hypocrisies and really, trying to wrestle with, where do you fit in this, right? How can America make enough room to hold all the things that you are that maybe in direct or indirect collision, right, with who America has been or is, right? So can you talk a little bit about, what, I don't know, what keeps you showing up, right? Like what keeps you showing up to the America Party, right? Do you still believe, I think two of you use that word patriot and patriotism, right? And so I just wonder, like, how does that where are y'all at with that in the moment right now, right? Like what does it mean to you to be an American, or do you just consider yourself to be a human being who was placed here for the moment? Why don't we start with you, Angela, because you're the one who's actually not physically on this comment right now. So,
Okay. I mean, honestly, it's part of why I'm, still in Shanghai watching the fire from a distance. Sometimes it feels selfish, recognizing that I get what you mean about, separating human being versus American, but I also recognize in this moment I can't ignore the fact that I have an American passport, right? There have been privileges for me to get here, and even, with US-China relations getting worse, people still treat Americans differently in a good way, at least like to my benefit. What keeps me going, I guess, like to write poetry, to continue, thinking about this stuff and to stay hopeful is, I think, the younger generation, seeing the struggles they go through, or seeing that they have similar questions that I do, or look at things in a different way than I'm looking at it. I think it inspires me and reminds me, like, okay, someone's reading the work out there. Someone needs to hear this. And if I can help them feel seen, then, that can be enough, despite all these, restless questions and confusion about what it means to be, a person right now.
I've decided that I'm including myself when you say the younger generation. I'm just deciding. I just made the cutoff. So I'm just deciding that. You know what I mean? But yeah, other thoughts on that.
I would say that, like, it's not that I hate America or I'm not proud to be American or whatever have you, the rhetoric or the language that someone who would be like, you're an anti-American person would like use, right? Just by listening to a critical poem that does call out like America's bullshit, right? I think because I love where I come from, because I'm proud to be on land that my ancestors have, literally fought and died for. I think I want my country to be better, right? And you can't be better unless you improve, and you can't improve unless there's some critique, unless there's some conversation about all the things that need to change for the sake of people like staying alive. Like, it's very crucial. Like, I don't understand why people make that such a, like, it's so black and white, right? They polarize it, and really there's a lot of gray, and there's a lot of room to talk about the things that are deathly important in our country right now. And I'm not a patriot because I have red, white, and blue flag posted all over my living room and my front yard. I'm a patriot because I really do want this country to be better for everyone who is in this country, right? And regardless of nationality, of race, of what state, of what side of the border, right? It's about wanting to be better. And it's other places don't sit there and call their citizens anti-American because they're writing something that's critical and they're performing it. So I've always thought that's the strangest thing, to get kind of that I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? That negative feedback when you do perform a poem that is critical of its government, right? And any piece since the beginning of history, right? And all the great writers have wrote something of that nature, and it's quickly tore up and again polarized. And I think that we're at a point in time where our young people and us, and well, I'm young too, right?
That's right. We're all young. Everyone
All our
on
young
this
people,
screen
we
is
can
a young person.
we can do better because it's called critical thinking, people. Like, let's let's be critical and not take it so offensively. And let's look at like what really does need to change for the sake of humanity, right? That's my take on it.
Big facts. Love it. Ashley Cornelius.
Yeah, I feel like this is the eternal struggle because I am a Black American and I am a stolen person on stolen land. So like, like I didn't necessarily like want to be here. My ancestors didn't want to be here, which is always my comeback when people are like, go back to where you came from. I was like, you got to talk to your family tree because like someone got me and put me here. And so I think, right, this speaks to like the diaspora, very specifically for Black Americans, where we are American and our culture of being American is based on being enslaved, right? So like things that we understand as Blackness are also ways in which we had to survive during enslavement. And I don't have any connection to a homeland, right? I did my African ancestry and I'm from Cameroon, but like there's nothing connecting me to that outside of a certificate. And so I feel so in between, and it's hard to even answer this question because I still get very jealous when I get to go to like cultural events and there's like a direct like ritual and culture and dance. And I'm like, yo, I don't know anything at all. And so it's really difficult being in that space. And I'm gonna say a lot of things, but it's important. Like we also have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, right? Like we were stolen and then we are patriots. And right, sometimes that is so conflicting. I recently recognized that doing the Pledge of Allegiance as a Black person for so long was like really wild. Like I'm pledging allegiance to my captors every single day, and is instilled in me as a child until I'm an adult. And like, I think I'm waking up, and I know the like woke term is kind of overplayed, but it really is like, I'm understanding who I am, where I come from. And in that, like, I'm trying to wake other people up too, to the point of like, what keeps you going is there's a lot of stuff that is owed to me, right? 40 acres and a mule. Okay. Didn't get that. And that was not enough. And so what I am owed, I will get from poetry. I will get from organizing. I will give back to my community. And so if the systems that are built to oppress us are there, then it's community, right? I think community saves us. Community feeds us. Community helps us when the systems set in place do not. And if I know that, then I have to keep going. Then I have to be a part of my community and do something, because the difference between racism and anti-racism is inaction.
Hello.
That's it.
Hello. Say
That's
that.
it. So we got to do
that. Say that. Speaking of community, I just want to read up. There's some clapping emojis here. There's some bravos. There's some woohoos. There is a question that's rhetorical, which is my question is how do you use straws when you spit so much fire? It's not a real question, though. That's a compliment disguised as a question. We respect your alchemy, sir. Quick follow-up to that question, and this is a real one for me too, right? One of the things that I think connects us to King is I think there's a direct lineage between King and his artistry and his tradition, that tradition of oration and ritual and gathering and transcendence and getting people to this other place. And, you can draw a direct line, from people even before King, but certainly in the more modern context to, hip hop and spoken word. And this moment we're in now, right, is oration. It's just, to me, it's more in that tradition of upliftment, really, and gospel, like giving y'all the news, right? And so it has been really hard for me to have that disrupted, right? Like the ability to gather frequently and I will take this virtual space any day. But how has that been for y'all? What's kept you writing? And Mercedes, we were talking before in the virtual backstage about when you get into those spaces of organizing and administration and other things, and Ashley and Angela as well, you guys work in different spaces as well. It's like what keeps you coming back to the page, right? And just being like, no, this has to get out right now. I got to do this right now. Like what keeps you motivated? How have you been taking care of your craft in this time. We'll go backwards. Ashley, I'm asking. I will ask you first. Mainly, I'd like to hear you first, just because, again, this role that you have, right, as a laureate, right, that comes with some responsibilities. But you also brought up this expectation, right? Like you're a public poet, right, in a different sense, right? So you might be in spaces where they're not hip to like the same conversation you're doing at Black Poets Matter or something like that. They might be like, oh, Ashley's here to commemorate the opening of this new duck pond, and then you go, it's like, I pledge allegiance to my captors, and they might, you might split some wigs back, right? So, in these very politicized, very divisive times, also in a community like Pikes Peak, which is very distinctive. How are you straddling those lines? And then for both of you in your particular spaces and contexts, is like, how has that affected your writing or changed it, or where are you at with it?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, and I think it's important, right? Like, I'm the first Black poet laureate of the Pikes Peak region. One, that's wild. So, but I think it also is, like you said, straddling this line of course, I can write poetry to fit a need, but like poetry at my core is the way that I communicate. It is probably my mother tongue, right? Knowing that I have no idea what my ancestors had before me. Like, this is the way that I process and I talk. And so, folks code switch, and for survival and also for like protection of ourselves, not to make other people comfortable, it is for me in the spaces that I want to be in. And I feel the same way with poetry. Is like, I'm never not who I am. I'm able to get into certain spaces, but I'm still going to say the same thing. I'm going to talk about the ducks. I'm talking about the bread that we're feeding them, and that's at a Whole Foods, and that people can't afford Whole Foods because of redlining, right? And so it's like, how do we...
Can we just take a moment to just acknowledge what just happened here right now?
Damn, Whole Foods.
True poet.
Whole Foods, whole paycheck.
For real. But yeah, and I think I am... one, as a community organizer, I see what poetry does for people. Like, I know that it is survival, that we have saved lives at open mics, whether or not we know it or not. Like, that is what we do. And as a therapist on like that side of the world and doing poetry therapy, like, we are not okay. I'm gonna say that to everybody listening. Our mental health is not good. The mental health fallout of COVID is, we haven't planned for it. We are not ready for it. Poetry does not take the place of therapy. Poetry does not take the place of therapy. Okay, therapy is completely different, but what poetry does is therapeutic. It can start a conversation. It can start the healing, and that is what we need now more than ever, is a place for us to express ourselves and to feel connected when we cannot see, touch, or be around folks. And so that's what motivates me. We got to save lives, and I think that's what poets do. They feed the people and they save lives.
That was beautiful. So I actually, so there's that element of like going and being on the organizational side of community, right? You're less in the spotlight, more backstage organizing the show. And I've took that position for a few years now, and kind of had to like flip-flop between, the poet, the artist that I am, and but also as the leader in the community that I love. And that's always kind of like a game of tug of war. It got even harder with COVID, right? And then it got even extremely harder because I had a baby mid-COVID. So I'm a first-time mom. We're in the middle of this pandemic. There are days where I'm really like, imposter syndrome is getting the best of me right now. Was I even a poet? Was that a thing? Was that real life? Was that real life, right? But no, I have to like slap myself out of it a little bit and get to the computer, get to my journal, and even just jot down nonsense, right? Just to keep that poetic mind fresh. Because leading by example, I work with a lot of young people, right? And I tell them all the time, write, just write. There is no wrong, just write, as a good friend of mine would say. And yeah, just put the pen to the paper and go, because you know, you need it, especially if I work with a lot of at-risk youth, right? At our organization, and Albuquerque is crazy right now, man. It's in a state of like chaos. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of just the outcomes of COVID, right? Kind of coming to the surface, and that's taken a big toll on our youth. And man, they need that outlet more than anything, our young people. So I love doing the work I do because I know it pushes the young people to be like in it. And if the adults are not like, hey, we need to do this, then the young people are like, okay, I'll go do some, you know, crazy shit with my friend after school, right? And so I'm like, yeah, we need something that's like structured for them. We need something that keeps them, you know, their voices need to be heard. Their voices need to be heard. And in doing that, I realized my voice also still needs to continue to be heard. And so the youth really do inspire me in my hometown to just keep going. And also just to stay sane sometimes. Poetry is like the best medicine. And then you don't realize how much you need it. Like I didn't realize how much I needed this tonight. So thank you both for like your beautiful words. Cause I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how like dusty my poetic heart was. And you guys just like ripped it. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is awesome. I feel alive. I feel like a human again. I don't feel like such a like closed off little hermit crab in my crazy little casita, you know? So thank you guys.
I'll just say real quick, just on the imposter syndrome thing, there's a film called Wizard of Oz that reminds us it is all about imposter syndrome. Okay, they always had it. That wizard is, there is no Oz, there is no person to christen you real. You know, it's always, you always had it. Like that's it. There is no Oz. Oz is a lie. You know what I mean? It's levels. It's deep.
I could have went home from the beginning. They didn't have to go through all that.
See what I'm saying? Now I got bunions, and I have this brain the whole time. Angela Kong, thoughts.
Community and poetry. Yeah, I was trying to think of a coherent way to like summarize, but it's gonna be messy. So I was in the States during 2020, and that was my first time back since it's been a few years. And so what I did was attend a bunch of Zoom events like a maniac online. So many things I signed up for. And of course, it was, you know, like random events about activism or films or stuff like that. But also like a lot of poetry things too, a lot of poetry readings and just hearing from others. I also attended classes, and it made me realize actually, I had never really given myself the opportunity to take poetry classes. In some form or another, it was always something I denied. Same with photography, actually. And to actually take a class and, you know, like learn from others, be inspired by their words, be humbled in their company, it helped me also see how important poetry community is. This past year, I took a class, and then one of the exercises we did in that class was Exquisite Corpse. So it's similar to like Game of Telephone, right? So poets working together to create like one poem together. And when I took this exercise and did it on Discord with friends to do what we called a poetry potluck, then we created even more magic. And every time I am able to do poetry in a collaborative way or just hear from other poets, there's always magic in the air. And I think that's what I love about writing. And it's, you know, been able to connect with friends in a new way. Like one of my best friends, she's just started writing poetry again. And now we just send each other like, you know, 20-page documents of all our poetry that we never show anyone else. And it's just so nice to have that space where, you know, you are doing the work, and even when you're alone with your, poetry that is like long and winding, you're like, oh, this is garbage. But then when you show it to someone else, they're like, wow, that's really good. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And it's nice that we can do this for each other. And, I think sometimes it can feel like, I don't, want someone to read this, dirty laundry, but, I think ultimately I keep writing because it's a cathartic space despite the messiness. And it helps remind me that my words and my magic still exists.
I love it. Well, we thank you all for your magic tonight. Please keep putting beautiful poetry in the world. Keep fighting a good fight. We appreciate it and we need it. I'm assuming, hoping your various socials were flashed on the screen at some point. But if for those out there listening who are looking out the windows of their cars as they cruise the information superhighway, that you jotted down and you're going to follow these poets in their various spaces and keep up with them. We thank you again. Yeah, love is love, y'all. Love is love. Can you feel the digital love coming through? Everyone's thunderously applauding. Last little bit of housekeeping before we tune out. Want to give a shout out and a thanks to our behind the scenes crew here at the Fine Arts Center at the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. We don't only exist in the virtual, we also exist in the actual. Come see us on 30 West Dale. We've got a new exhibition that just opened up. Things are happening. Theater will be resuming in February. We are now fully hybridized. This Action Words is now a series. We'll be back in February for a panel. We're going to jump between poetry and panel discussions. So keep up with us. Keep rocking with us wherever you are on the planet. One last little thing, and this is just for everybody. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 19th, there will be a congressional hearing on the power, the peril, and the promise of the creative economy. There is a whole movement of arts workers that are uniting to amplify their voices across the whole country about the arts and culture economy, which contributed over $919 billion to the U.S. economy in 2019. And also, as you've heard here, art is happening on so many levels. It's in communities, it's in schools, it's changing lives, it's moving the needle forward. Obviously, we got to have the arts because the art is the meaning of life. Double entendre, I do this all day. So please go to visit sites like Be an Arts Hero and other places, Arts in the Americans. Find out how you can elevate your voice and contribute to this major moment, because this is the first time in history something like this is happening on the government level. We still do not have like a Secretary of the Arts or a Department of the Arts. We have the National Endowment for the Arts, which one particular political party who we won't name because Mercedez already did it, stays trying to cut this like penance, which is arts funding. And so it's time for this nation to get serious about supporting its arts workers. You're looking at 4 of them right now, and we deserve our slice of the cheesecake. Not a huge one, just an equitable piece, because we out here trying to save this nation too. All right, that's it. I did my part. Everybody be good, be safe. We love you. See you at the next one. Peace in the Middle East.
Thank you, Idris.
Thank you.
Thank you.